Hi, this is Craig Stocks, and I want to take a few minutes today to talk through what I think is the easiest and best way to add color to monochrome images taken through narrowband filters. And I posted this data the other day as an example of the anatomy of an image, and what I want to do is give you a chance to do your own using Photoshop. I imagine most people have access to Photoshop. If not, for $10 a month, it's a really cheap way to get the best tool available. So to start with, this is the image that we want to create, and it's made up of 3 layers, which the first thing we need to do is open those 3 layers in Photoshop so we can work with them. So to do that, I'll go to File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack, and what this will let me do is choose Browse and go find the 3 files that I want to load, and those are right here. I can click on the first one, shift click on the last one, click OK. So that loads those 3 file names, and then click OK to actually load those. And what that'll do is put those 3 separate images as individual layers in the layer stack over here on the right. And if your Photoshop arrangement doesn't look like this, you can choose the window and essentials, and that will get you a layout pretty close to this, if not exactly like this. Now the first thing I want to do is change the order of the layers. Generally I like to have the hydrogen on top, and then the oxygen, and then the stars, hydrogen on the bottom, and then oxygen, and then the stars on top. And right now they're just backwards from that. So I can just click on the layer I want to move and drag it down. So now it's on the bottom. Now I'll grab this stars layer, click and drag up so it's on top. So now we have these color taken with a one-shot color camera image of the stars. And then we have the black and white of the oxygen of the Squid Nebula, and then black and white of the Flying Bat Nebula. So to turn this into a color image, I see a lot of people doing a lot of copy, paste, apply image, moving stuff back and forth to different files to ultimately get them into the channels. And I'm here to tell you that is the hard, long way around. There's a real easy way to do this. First thing you do need to do is, if you've loaded monochrome images, which these are black and white, but they're not technically grayscale, you may need to go up to Image Mode and make sure RGB color is selected. If you load these directly out of DSS, for instance, they will come in as a grayscale, and you do need to convert to RGB color first. Then, with the hydrogen layer on the bottom, we'll simply turn on the oxygen layer, and what we want to do is include just the green and blue from the oxygen layer in this case, but not the red. If I double click out here to the right of the file name, it will bring up the layer style menu or dialog box, and you'll notice in the center there's some advanced blending options, and one of those options are a checkbox next to each one of the red, green, and blue channels. So right now each one of those channels is turned on. If I simply turn off the red channel, that would leave this layer with just the green and blue, and whatever below red would shine through. So I turn off this out of the way, turn off the red channel, and we have a bicolor image in the hydrogen, oxygen, oxygen, where hydrogen is mapped to red and oxygen is mapped to green and blue in one simple click. To add the stars, now I'll turn on that layer, and because it's opaque and it's just in normal blending mode, it covers everything up. And what we really want to do is let this black background just recede and just show the areas that are light. So I'll choose the drop down box here, switch to lighten blending mode, and now we have the stars shining through. The black background isn't affecting it. We have color by turning off the red channel on the oxygen where we want just the green and blue. You can use the same technique for RGB. Have your 3 RGB layers and selectively turn on just red, just green, just blue, and you'll get an RGB color image. If you want, let's say, the Hubble palette in SHO, again, do the same thing just by turning off the channels that you don't want on that layer. You have the 3 layers creating that color image, and it gives you the same result as copying and pasting and moving things around in channels. It's just a whole lot easier and faster. And the other advantage is I can work with adjustment layers now if I want to make changes. For instance, if I click on the hydrogen layer, if I add a curves layer above that, the way adjustment layers work, it will affect anything below it but nothing above it. Since it's only above the hydrogen layer, I can brighten or darken the hydrogen layer, and that's the only thing affected. If I want to affect just the oxygen layer, again, I can click the curves adjustment layer, or I can go to layer, new adjustment layer, curves, and it'll bring up a dialog box asking me what I want to name it. I'll just take the default. But the thing I need to do now, if I just leave it as it is, it affects everything underneath it. If I want it to affect just the oxygen layer, then I would use this clipping icon on the adjustment layer, and all adjustment layers have this. And what that does is it clips that adjustment layer to the layer below it, so that it only affects this layer and nothing else. So now if I adjust brighter or darker, I'm only affecting the hydrogen and not everything else. And of course I could do the same thing with the stars. I could add a curves layer, clip it to the star layer, and then change the brightness of the stars. So that's all there is to it. I would encourage everybody to explore Photoshop and try to get away from copying, pasting into layers and into channels, and instead work with layers. So that's what I wanted to share today. I hope you have a good day and enjoy processing the sample images that I'm posting here on Facebook. Have a great day.